So we're going to look today in this little video a mother's experience into motherhood, and the reason I think that will be helpful for you is probably within your roles working with new families you focused a lot on the baby's transition from womb to world. So if you stay and watch this video, hopefully you'll get more understanding of that journey from the woman's point of view. So before we get going, if you can hit and like the subscribe button, that will really help this channel. I've been collaborating with Babyem for a number of years, and I have worked with women on the journey through preconception to pregnancy, labour and birth into motherhood for 25 years now. My particular interest has really grown in the latter years in supporting new mothers. It's an extraordinary transition that women go through at this time, and I think it'd be interesting to just unpick that a little around the language that gets used and what maybe you understand from that. So we've already mentioned that a baby goes through a big transition. The woman surely does. There is a great word for this, and you may or may not have heard it, and it's matrescence. Think adolescence. Right? It's a time of great hormonal surges within the body, alongside changes in a woman's body physically, but also great shifts in her identity and within her relationships with others. So I think it's a great term to remind us of how much change on that physiological level for new mothers. The next word that I wanted to bring into that arena is postpartum. So you may well have heard that word. It's a more familiar word, but I wonder what you think of, what your understanding of that word is, because it varies hugely if you look at textbooks, etc. So it can be anything from 9 to 11 days when the medics are talking about the uterus contracting back to its pre-pregnant state. It can also be years. Think about women having subsequent babies, right? So women, what does the word postpartum mean? It actually means after birth. And once a woman's given birth, she can never go back. She's always going to be a woman who's given birth. Right? She can't be that independent woman who hasn't had a baby ever again. Right? She has changed. But also within that postpartum, what's been coming a bit more to the fore, and you might have heard some of this terminology, is a growing realization of the importance of the first 40 days. It's probably what 6 weeks postpartum checkup is linked to. The 6 weeks is literally 42 days. Right. So there are many cultures that believe hugely in supporting new mothers in numerous ways. In India it's called the sacred window. In China it's the golden month. But here in the West we've lost a lot of that older wisdom. But there is at this time, I think many people trying to reintroduce that into the conversation to those of us that care for new mothers. And I think as well, for those of us working with new mothers, it helps our understanding of why they are as they are, that mother and baby alongside each other are going through a huge transition. I wonder if you've heard the term fourth trimester. If you have, do let me know. Because I think that is a more familiar term now, but maybe not. Fourth trimester is a longer period of time than that 6 weeks. It's double. It's the first 3 months. So think trimesters, first, second, third trimester of the pregnancy. Right? So this is a continuum of that. It's the first 3 months after birth. And it is a very particular time, and it's where the mother and baby are actually in quite a similar state. They're both pretty nervous. They're both moved into a land of the unknown. Right? A baby has left the womb and come onto dry land and is having to adapt hugely to that. Their whole environment has changed, and the mother also is going through her own huge changes, and we touched on them at the beginning. Right? We mentioned the term matrescence. So hormonally she's in a very different place. So new mothers are often more tearful, emotional. It's understandable. and added into that, this great desire to keep your baby safe and well, sometimes in a time when you haven't maybe even fully connected to them. So it's very emotionally charged. It's a time when her identity is completely changed. If she's a woman that's been working independently for many decades and suddenly becomes someone's mum, that's quite a thing to grapple with initially. And just to sort of finish really around this idea of looking at this time and the different terms used, I often use a little analogy and in my sessions with new mums about her old self almost being like this mermaid, this beautiful mermaid that sort of goes off and rests down at the bottom of the ocean and actually then says, off you go, that she has to go forward into the land of mothers and discover, her identity as this mother. And what's to remind her of, okay, so, you feel like you don't have the skill base for this, but you will find your way. You will be good enough. And at a certain point, usually, within maybe that first year, towards the end of it, it's like that old self, her mermaid, comes back to the surface, and this newfound mother and her old independent identity come together, and she becomes even more. I'd like to attach a little freebie here for you, and it's just going to be a sheet on looking around the language that's used in mothering that could be helpful. Not only some of these terms, but also just the power of language and how not to undermine women at this time by choosing our words carefully. So hit the subscribe button on the right if you haven't already, and yes, share it with a friend, anyone who you think this might be helpful for. And I hope you enjoy. Thank you.